Good evening, everyone. It being 6:30, I'm going to call the meeting of the Ordinance Committee to order, Monday, May 20th. And with me, I have Counselor Terry Murphy. I'm Counselor Linda Bacon. And this is Counselor Mike Sullivan. He has joined us to make the quorum. We must have a minimum of 3 to hold the meeting. And we recently changed our rules so that if there is a counselor present, that counselor can help us make the quorum so we can start on time and do business. So thank you. I appreciate it. So it would be in order to take up item 1 and make a motion to open the public hearing.
Make a motion, we take item 1 and open the public hearing.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So we have our public hearing for a special permit application of Buudda Brothers for a marijuana establishment and recreational marijuana retail, RMRE and MME. 7.10.2 at 604 Main Street. Map 026, Block 02, Parcel 007. So if the applicant would like to come forth and just run down the application, everybody on the committee has not had an opportunity to read through your application. So whoever you might like to have come up and give us an overview, oh, okay.
Not
Okay.
allowed, not allowed.
So,
Absolutely not.
so whoever will be speaking, we just need your name and address and, okay, so if you want to come in and take one of these microphones, they're a little bit awkward, but we have to use them for the Channel 15 local channel. If you're more comfortable, you can sit and use the microphones, either way.
Thank you so much for the opportunity to be here today.
Sure. And just give me a chance to note down
you need to get a
names
mic,
so that I'll,
You can do that
that's
as well.
fine. And the buttons on the side.
You got it.
Thank you, thank you.
Okay.
So you just asked for us to walk through a little bit of the application.
Yes, because everybody hasn't had a chance to read it.
Can I get like a test so
Yes,
Hello?
good. Yeah, okay, so whoever would,
Yes, thank you. So I'll start, I guess. My name is Marvin Cabot. Last name is spelled C-A-B-L-E, 76 Gothic Street in Northampton. I'm the lawyer here representing Buudda Brothers, and I should say I'm very excited to be here today. There's been a lot of blood, sweat, and tears that have come into this application, and we're very proud. This actually happens to be a family organization. The majority of everyone here are brothers, except for a mother and a sister. So we're very proud of that family connection. Again, my name is Marvin Cabot. I am a lecturer at UMass Amherst. I teach 3 law classes. Also, I am a practicing attorney in the Western Massachusetts region. I think everyone was introduced already, right? So I don't have to go through too much
just if
more.
somebody comes in to speak, they can.
Sure, sure. So I wanted to go briefly through the application, if you guys haven't already, and then on a topical level, and then I wanted to hand off the mic to people who know more about the application. As you know, we've already submitted the application, and in several parts. The application is for a marijuana retail establishment and also a manufacturing establishment at 604 Main Street. But I should also add that it's cultivation too. So it's not just retail and product manufacturing, it's cultivation. The cultivation aspect of it is in a very small portion, so it isn't the major component, but will be added to later. As you see in the submission, the lease, we have a lease with the landlord, and that has been taken care of. We also, in our packet, provided some description of activities, but I didn't want to go through them specifically. I want to leave that open for Q&A for you guys. There's people here that can speak to the specifics of each part of that description of activities. Also, too, the traffic plan was really, as we spent a lot of time on the traffic plan. I'm sure you guys are very concerned about traffic impact. John Toro will be speaking about the traffic impact plan. We'll answer any questions you might have on that. I should also mention, too, that we have submitted our application to the CCC. So that means a lot of components are completed beyond the special permit application. So already we have executed a host community agreement with the mayor and have gone through the whole process in doing that. And also beyond that, too, we have spoke to the fire department. I think there's a representative from the fire department here today. We have spoke to the electrical utility. I think that's Holyoke.
Building.
Right.
Some electric.
Right, and also too, we have spoke to the water department too, which I believe is Holyoke Waterworks.
Yeah, yeah.
So also too, I wanted to talk kind of about the developmental impacts and the developmental impact plan. Sorry, there's different components, as you know, to that developmental impact plan. So I wanted to have Raul Mata speak to the community outreach portion, and I wanted Justin and John to speak to the other portions of that developmental impact plan. Raul, would you like to come up and speak about our community outreach?
Or
You can speak right there.
Out right here?
Yeah,
You can-
sure.
All right, cool. Can you hear me fine?
Yes.
All right. So my name's Raul Mata. Thanks again for having us. I grew up in Western Mass, and my family was part of the Puerto Rican migration that came in the 70s to Holyoke and has been around since. And I've had the pleasure of working with the Buudda brothers from the law offices of Marvin Cabot because it's been very interesting to see a family business that's coming in that is Puerto Rican-owned business coming into this community and quickly identifying with the community because of what the community is. My previous experience, for the last 20 years, I've worked as a community organizer and more specifically working with youth leadership, nonviolence prevention work, and public health work. I was, for 5 years, on Appleton Street. I ran a Center for Education, Prevention, and Action, which was a nonprofit organization that did counseling and testing services for injection drug users. It was a little bit before the needle exchange program came in, so we were sort of working with the captive population at the time. I mentioned that just to sort of give a little bit of background about my role in this process. When the Buudda brothers came down and we first met, they initiated a conversation with us about the interest in making sure that they were part of this community. And much more than just a business functioning in this community, but that they were actually neighbors to the people in South Holyoke where they were going to be located, but also had their ear to the ground whenever it came to issues that came up or campaigns that they could be a part of as a business here. So we went through this extensive process of helping them get connected to the network of nonprofits and the network of community organizations that are already doing work, and trying to develop that network so that the community impact plan and community engagement plan can actually identify folks who already know what is needed in this community and how are already doing programs in the community and how we can support them. So part of that was reaching out to the Holyoke Safe Neighborhood Initiative, reaching out to Nueva Esperanza, reaching out to Holyoke Community College and other folks who are involved in this process in different ways, or who will be impacted in different ways. So I don't know if you're familiar with the populations that have been identified in the regulations as being disproportionately impacted by drug enforcement or by prior drug convictions. And so because the regulations identified those populations, it was very nice for somebody who's been working here for a long time to be able to get into this with a focus on how we can get beyond the 3%, beyond sort of the required contributions from the business, actually
Second chance.
and a deliverable that is specific and not a lofty goal by a bunch of folks that want to see great things happen but don't actually have the connections to do it right now. So we started this conversation months ago, and the Buudda brothers, sometimes we give clients an idea and see how far they can go and then support them whenever they can't do it on their own. And I was very pleased to see that they took complete ownership of the process, began conversations with all the folks that I just mentioned, have signed up and done their Corey checks and everything else so that they can begin volunteering at Morgan Elementary School, the closest school to their location. They have already begun talking about basketball programs for the summer through the South Holyoke Neighborhood Initiative. And actually moving beyond that, just looking at the community and saying, how can we actually, we have ideas, we can listen to people right now with what's going on, but once our establishment is here, how do we continue to keep our ear to the ground and make sure that we're holding listening sessions or whatever you want to call it so that the local community and especially the neighbors, so the folks who are right around this facility, can tell us what's going on and how we can be supportive. So beyond sort of our involvement in just telling people we're here, we're present, we want to be good neighbors and good corporate citizens, Holyoke Community College recently, we started conversations with them about workforce development. And so part of the focus of the regulations has been to support people who have prior drug convictions or who are in these disproportionately impacted communities and becoming part of this industry. And I'm sure as the folks who are sitting or having people sit in front of you often with these types of presentations, a lot of folks aren't from here. And so it's nice when you have somebody that's an organization that's not necessarily from Holyoke, but is actually committed to working with the folks from Holyoke to get them into these types of workforce development programs. And so this is actually going to be launching at the end of the summer. And what we've been able to do is get in at the ground level and talk with them about how we can support individuals who are interested in going into this workforce development program by providing scholarships for them to be able to actually enroll into a 200-hour training program. The program would include the different levels and different positions that will be made available for the marijuana industry. And while it's focused on the Holyoke community, it actually reaches further than the Holyoke community, because these folks, once they're certified and have gone through this program, will have the opportunity to seek employment anywhere these establishments are opening up and potentially become marijuana agents, which is what they call the folks who are certified to work in these facilities.
So has that program been put forth as part of your application, or is that a separate?
This is a separate piece
activity
because we
under
are
the-
still developing it.
Okay.
And so before the
You're
application.
just going for the regs in here?
Yeah, and so and there is some mention of some of the work, but the bigger piece for us was to sort of cover the requirements and then be able to do this other positive impact work alongside of it.
Okay.
And to make that pledge and the commitment throughout our work. And so it's been very nice to be able to see that all play out, and we're in communication with these folks, but we wanted to just sort of focus on the idea that the specific populations that are being targeted in the regulations for additional support are the populations that we've already begun to commit to working with, including folks who are from different departments. And you'll have to forgive me, we haven't made the commitment yet, so I don't want to
Right.
mention the specific organization. But working with folks who might be coming out of being incarcerated, may have a marijuana charge, and now they'll be able to work through the program that's already supporting them and have a direct pipeline to this training program so that we can keep them involved and keep them as part of the industry, but a legal industry. And so we're very excited for that. And I just wanted to also mention that the family business sort of operation is such an important piece of this for us, because it's not this large industry. We're not a big box business coming into Holyoke to try to make as much money as possible. This is a business that wants to develop, and one that wants to develop with the development of Holyoke as it's happening right now. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I would like to note that Counselor Bartley has joined us, who did let me know he would be late to arrive tonight. And also we have Counselor Leahy in the chambers and Counselor Valentin. Okay.
Good evening, Council. My name is Justin Bagan. I'm the CEO of Buudda Brothers. Thank you, Raul and Marvin, for obviously representing us in a great way. Sorry. So obviously, Marvin and Raul did bring up that we are a Puerto Rican family establishment, and pretty much what that means is that that is a way that we can connect to the community. I would feel differently than everyone else. Sorry, guys. That's differently that we communicate with everyone else. We think that that would be great for us because it's a different way for us to kind of reach out to the community, reach out to the businesses, because we can relate, because we are Puerto Rican, and we understand that Holyoke is 43% Puerto Rican. Another thing that I wanted to bring to your attention is that we would look on the first year of operations to hire about 15 employees. This second year, we would look to take over the second part of our establishment. Right now, we rent it out to Gill's Auto Body, and that's roughly under 4,000 square feet that they currently hold. And within that under 4,000 square feet, we would like to open another cultivation to add to our current access, our current building. And we believe that that could add anywhere to another of 10 to 12 employees within that second year. The third thing that I would like to bring up to you guys is that we understand that there's a requirement of 3% that is mandated by the city on tax purposes on an annual basis. On top of that, Buudda Brothers has discussed that we would like to maybe give 0.5% of our net profits on a yearly basis to give back to the city of Holyoke. Now, when I say give back, I mean we did read the Holyoke Master Plan 2000, and we came across numerous things that we understand that would go towards the revitalization of Holyoke. So one of the biggest things that we saw in the revitalization is the youth. And what I mean by that is pretty much, we've had discussions with with Morgan Elementary. We realize kind of the concerns they have, kind of the funding they do need, such as books, maybe anything help with the gym or any fixes they have. And with that 0.5%, we would like to give back to the youth, to Morgan Elementary, because we do believe that the youth is our future, and that's one of the things that we want to bring to Holyoke. Secondly, I would like to thank Jeff Burkott from Planning Department. He was, very helpful, always had an open door policy to us. Through that special permit, he helped in a great way, so I would just like to thank him. I don't know if he's here yet. And at this point, that's all I have, so if you guys have any questions for us, that'd be great.
Okay.
I can just
Counselor Murphy?
first, let me make a few comments. First of all, I appreciate the potential of the 0.5% net profit in going to the South Holyoke neighborhood, which I certainly appreciate as the ward councilor. And I would encourage you not necessarily to be specific to the school as much as to the youth in the area, because I know, and Ed Case from Safe Neighborhood Initiative just came in right behind you, and I know he's an advocate of Morgan School, but he's also an advocate of giving kids after-school programs. I ran an after-school basketball program this winter, and I had 20-something kids pretty much every Tuesday and Friday once the program got started. And looking at potentially doing Girls on the Run program, which is trying to get into Morgan. So I think there are after-school activities that might have an additional impact, and so I would encourage you to look at that. But I will say, I still have concerns, and they're mostly safety concerns and traffic concerns, which, as you know, as we spent an hour and a half here trying to going through those. But just everything I have seen thus far, from a professional and personal perspective, I think you've demonstrated a top class. And I appreciate that, and you followed up with information, and you've tried to come back and do good things. So I'm going to try to do everything I can to agree, but I will challenge you on certain areas in terms of the traffic and the parking, because I do think that is the major issue. One last thing, and Justin, right? Your comment about the 15 employees and the 10 employees the additional year. And I know one of the concerns with the other part was getting additional parking as well, plus additional space to operate. So that's actually, from when I met about 2 months ago, I think, we were talking, maybe it was just the family employed for the first year. So it sounds like we're gaining some additional information and some additional potential employment. Again, I would encourage, and I think based on what I've heard, the additional employment will primarily come from the neighborhood if possible. And obviously that's important to the neighborhood, bring up economic improvements and economic diversity, which is definitely good for the neighborhood. And that in itself would be good for the students at Morgan School. So thank you.
Just to reply real quick on that. John and Josh informed me on the meeting. Thank you for taking it. So I think after we met with you, we actually, kind of came up and tried to go into detail about our plan for the future. And we realized, how can we hire? What aspects can we hire? In what area? And I think as we started realizing and started going through every aspect of the business, then we started realizing, okay, we can hire from this point to this area and keep growing our business to hire more local residents.
And if I could just add one thing, the employment that Justin's talking about is just the employment for folks working in the facility. So beyond that, one of the other parts of the regulations is to actually hire contractors who have quarries or who have been disproportionately impacted the same way that other community members have been. And so even though we're not applying as an economic empowerment priority applicant, the commitment to do that is still there. And so all the folks that we've been working with are local folks for contractors. Once we're actually going into the build out, there will be a whole process where we sort of reach and seek those people first so that we can bring that, those contracts to Holyoke and continue to do it beyond just the employees that are working within the facility.
Thank you.
And that 15 employees is not considering interns. One of our plans is to have interns possibly come to our establishment, and so they can learn day by day of what we do, and hopefully they can learn some tools from us on what we do on a day-to-day basis.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay. So I'm going to just ask you to help walk us through some of the more technical aspects of your application. So we have received a letter dated April 18th from our engineer, Robert Parent, out of DPW. And I just want to read the main points of it into the record. DPW reviewed the information received by the city clerk on April 1st, 2019, for both the manufacturing and the retail. And they state in item 1 that the proposed project will not require permitting by the DPW or Board of Public Works, since the existing curb cut will be retained, and proposed site modifications do not trigger the threshold for requiring a stormwater permit. So that's relative to that. 2, the existing sidewalks in the area are adequate to serve the proposed facility. However, several of the concrete panels in front of the facility are degraded and were potentially damaged from previous uses at the site. We request that the applicant be required to replace these degraded and decayed sidewalk panels. Is that something you're aware of and okay with doing?
So we are aware of everything that we do need to do on the property that we plan on opening. The only thing, and I'm sure you guys are aware of this from other companies, is that we have to go through the CCC process. So until they give us back an answer, I guess, on our provisional license, we're not allowed to make any changes to the actual structure of the property. So
Correct.
when they do come back to us on the provisional license, prior to then, because we'll have an investigator throughout the whole process, when we feel like we're getting close to getting an answer by them, then we'll start pulling all the permits that we're required to pull.
Well, right, and here's the thing, as we're going through this process and looking to make a recommendation relative to issuing the special permit, we will be putting conditions onto the permit. We know you can't get ahead of the process, so what we would do, as an example, in this number 2 with the sidewalks, we would list that as a condition under the special permit. Of course, you're not going to do it until you're doing everything, right? But, and so we would understand that part, all right? And then the third item is relative to traffic impacts and also relative to parking, which Councilor Murphy touched on. And it states that the traffic impacts resulting from the project beyond the initial opening period are expected to be minor and not require any off-site mitigation. Similar to the other recent RMRE facilities approved by the City Council, we recommend that the applicant be required to develop a traffic and parking mitigation plan. The following condition was included in previous approvals. And as there's more and more business, and we have to find the balance between the new businesses with the existing businesses and make sure we end up with a win-win. And this is the language that I'll read in, this is what we have been putting in as things have been, I think, getting maybe a little bit more intense in the area in terms of development. So what it states is the applicant shall submit a traffic and parking mitigation plan to the city engineer a minimum of 45 days in advance of beginning retail sales. That's when we find you might have the competition for space. This mitigation plan is to be subject to the review of the city engineer and city public safety officials. Opening of the facility is not to occur until all concerns of these departments have been addressed and this plan has been approved by the city engineer. All costs associated with preparing and implementing this plan are to be borne by the applicant. The traffic and parking mitigation plan is to be updated as needed to respond to any issues that occur when a facility is in operation. The requirements of this plan may be reduced or waived by the city engineer. So it sort of all depends, but it's just so there's a way of addressing things as things may grow and change over time. So what we've also tried to do as a committee is to standardize the different conditions that we've been putting on the special permit so that we're trying to be equitable with the different applicants coming in. Although some people are coming in for different types of business, so it's not totally the same. So you're not having something new here that a prior applicant hasn't had. So that's DPW. And then there is a longer letter dated May 16th from Jeff Burka out of planning. So I imagine you all have that. So what I'm interested to know is, there were a few open things on that letter, which I got on Friday. And so it would be helpful, I think, to the committee if you could kind of go down the letter with us and let us know where you are with it, because I don't think everybody's had an opportunity to look at it.
So I'll be able to talk about it, and also I'm going to bring my CEO, John Toro,
Okay.
to address some things as well.
Sure.
Would you mind if I?
You can sit there or either. Is the green light on? Okay.
Yeah, now it is. Good
Okay.
evening, council.
Good tip.
So would you like me to go through the process?
So, certain of the things on it are just noting that they've received the various plans, but maybe, so for example, on the top part of it, where it's talking about fencing to be installed in the front yard in excess of 4 feet in height would require a special permit. I guess it would be helpful to us if you are going to want that, or if you know you're not, you know,
Okay, so.
things like that.
Okay, wonderful. So our exterior part of our building is going to have a 4 feet black chain link fence. It's not going to go over that, so from our understanding, we're not going to need any special permit for that.
Okay.
For our exterior sally port, it's going to be an 8-foot chain link fence, and for that, we're going to request a special permit.
Okay.
For that, once we do receive our provisional license, like Justin Gahn stated, we would then come and take the additional processes to get so.
And I think that's just before the planning board, right, for the fence? I don't think that comes to us, that's the planning board.
Yes.
Okay. And as it goes down, he asks certain questions, like if we want to just run down the items in order.
I believe some of them already say submitted. So do you have any exact ones that you want to go through?
Well, in number 1, it says, are the plans received on April 3rd and later revised, received April 16th?
That is the final. Yes, correct.
Okay. And they were okay with those in the planning department?
Yes.
Okay. And where they're noting that that you have just provided things, we don't really need to restate that. And you're still waiting on issuance from the CCC.
That's correct.
Is the lease itself, a copy of it in
Yes, it is.
application?
We can also explain if you guys do need explanation.
The only thing that we need,
Can I just
Councilor
ask a
Murphy?
question on that? So are you leasing to buy?
So actually, we have 2 LLCs. So there's one LLC called SNR and JP, which actually my parents own. And we have another LLC that's called Buudda LLC, which obviously we own the business, and they lease the building to us.
Okay,
So it's in the family.
Correct.
it's all in the family.
Make sure they pay the rent. Thank you.
And so the issue relative to the lease is that there's evidence of site control and for the use, that's the main issue. Okay.
If I don't pay the lease, my mom will not be happy. Just to let you know that.
And she knows where you live. Okay, I'll just pass this over to you guys so you can see it. So under section 7, there's a letter dated March 22nd, and I see that that's included for the security plan review and approval. And I know we have Captain Kavanagh here relative to the fire department. Do you wish to let us know what your findings, or if there's any questions?
My interaction with these gentlemen has been from, just basically from the planning.
Yeah,
We did site review after we were given plans, and we were happy with the access that's afforded us around their facility.
okay,
And I've been in constant communication with them as far as what our concerns will be once they go to the building permitting process.
okay.
So as of right now, when we're just talking about the site review and access issues, we're pretty satisfied with the situation over there.
Okay, and have you, or has somebody in your department given them a letter to that effect?
No, because it was unclear exactly what we needed to state.
Okay,
Because when we go to site review with the planning board,
Yes.
if we don't have input, then it's usually implied that we're satisfied with
Okay.
what's presented to their board.
oh, okay, so I think the only way that we differ a little bit is that we just need a very brief statement from the fire department that you reviewed the plans and the access was adequate. There was one or two, and anybody can jump in if you remember something different, occasions where there might have been things stored on the site,
Okay.
and the fire department weighed in on that. Either that it was minimal and didn't require anything, or,
Well, that's all going to come out in the building permit and the change of occupancy
so
review.
that will come in under
It'll plan
that.
at a different stage in the
So
their
I think
process.
for us, all we really need is the access question answered,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because we're talking about use in the site. Anybody have a different opinion? No? Okay, so if we could just have a very briefly
Sure, I'll get
written
what I
thing
can
that we
to
can
you.
put with the application on that?
Yep.
That would be great. All
Thank
right.
you.
Thanks a lot. Okay, I just want to note, fire department, okay. Is there anything else from items 8? So if we have a sign off from the police department, we haven't been asking for all of the details because part of the security is that the details aren't all out there everywhere. But you're all set with the exterior aspects and the interior aspects relative to that?
That's correct.
Okay,
And we did submit this sign off by the chief of police.
yeah, and that's in here. So when you were talking about the 15, right? Just to make sure I'm hearing correctly. Is that in the manufacturing cultivation side initially, and then you're gonna go to the retail next, or how are you looking at that?
So we will have one side, which is 604 Main Street. That's the address of that. And where we will hold the dispensary, I should say retail, cultivation, and manufacturing. So that's the 3-in-1. We also have the other side of our building, which is called 602, I believe. 606, apologies, which will be all cultivation. And that's where we plan on expanding into cultivation.
That's the secondary.
Correct. And that's just a little bit under 4,000 square feet, which in the second year, we plan on hiring more to help with that side.
Okay. So you're expecting to do the two functions right away at 604? The
Three functions. There's a dispensary, there is a cultivation, and there's manufacturing. So those are 3 licenses.
But now your cultivation must be coming under the MME, because before us, we only have MME and RMRE.
Correct.
Yeah, so I know they're two different activities. Did you want to jump in?
Yeah, they're combined under one definition, product manufacturing and cultivation
Under
under
the
the same definition.
MME.
Right, right.
Yeah, okay.
In the ordinances, not in the regulations from the CCC. So they're separate in the CCC regulations.
Oh, okay. Thank you. All right. So can you talk to us a little bit about how you're envisioning the traffic and the parking and the actual location to function?
So I'm actually going to pass
Can
that
do it
to.
can they do it on that, if possible?
Yeah, absolutely. Would I be able to take this microphone?
Yeah, you
Possible?
can pick it,
You can,
yeah.
or take that one right there.
It's a
or
little
that one.
awkward, but you
Either
can
way.
pick it up.
Thanks.
No worries.
It works.
So once again, thank you, Council. My name is John Toro, COO of Buudda Brothers. So we can just give you a better look, a little visual. So this is the locus plan. This is exactly where we're stationed on 604 Main Street. Main Street is here. For us to be able to mitigate the traffic, we currently have on-site parking that consists of 9 parking spaces, 1 ADA compliant. We did secure an off-site parking space at ABC Storage Units, and that consists of 2,500 square feet at roughly 10 parking spaces.
Where is
That would be here on the South Canal Street at the corner of Bridge.
And you said that's 15 more?
10 more, correct. And that's roughly about 700 feet away from our facility, walking distance. So that brings us to 19 parking spaces in total. From our understanding, we kind of got together and figured due to the traffic that we can potentially generate, we decided during the first year of operations that we were going to remove our tenant on the left side of our building, which is 606 Main Street. And that consists of an additional 14 parking spaces.
Oh, that's the car business.
Correct. So that would bring us in total to 33 parking spaces. And just so a little bit more examples of how we're going to be able to mitigate the traffic, we're going to have an on-site traffic conductor here on premises during all hours of operations.
And what are you thinking those will be?
Excuse me?
The hours of operation, what are you thinking those will be?
That would be from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m.
Okay.
And we will also have a traffic conductor at the off-site parking here during all hours of operations to be able to mitigate the traffic, have consumers enter and exit the facility in an efficiently effective way. We will also have signages here on the corner of Jackson Street and South Bridge Street, just directing traffic of anyone coming off of the 391. So if a traffic conductor states our parking is full, they would direct the traffic to Jackson, make a right on Jackson, make a right on Bridge Street, and end up at our off-site parking space.
Can I ask a question there?
Yes, of course.
Councilman?
So going to the South Bridge Street part, and I'll get into the other part. We get into the South Bridge Street part where they can drive, but is there a driveway without going on to Canal Street? I don't think there is.
So a driveway, so there is a,
To the storage facility area.
correct, so there's an entrance here on South Bridge Street,
Office up right on it?
right on it, that's correct.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
No worries.
So they could get into the lot off of South Bridge without going on Canal.
That's correct.
Which is a one-way, yeah.
Very efficient.
So secondary parking.
If I could just add one thing. So the folks who will actually be working to help move traffic along, we talked a lot about having sort of a combination of auxiliary police, police details, and then potentially employees of the facility. That'd be there doing that.
I mean, one of my,
Absolutely.
so I can keep going with my concerns.
Of course.
Yeah?
So again, as you know, when we met, my biggest concern was parking and traffic flow. And I've gone by 3 or 4 different times and tried to see different times of the day. And my concern still is, even if you have someone at your parking lot with the 9, stopping cars and saying, there's no room here, you want to go down the next one. My concern is that then creates a traffic problem in that last third part of Main Street to Jackson, which is especially during the early morning hours and the end of working day hours is extremely busy. And there's, as you'll know from your mother's property, there's cars sometimes that are down there taking 2 or 3 times to get through a traffic light during the rush hour. So, I mean, that is a concern I have, and I appreciate, I know you've worked to try to resolve it, and I like this resolution better than the one where you were gonna have somebody on the corner of Canal saying, go this way, and I said, I don't think that's gonna work. That sounds like an accident waiting to happen. But, again, that's a concern I have. I think it would be a lot, once you get to the second year, and you have the additional parking and the additional space for people to get in, without being in a situation where they're blocking the rest of the traffic, that makes a lot more sense to me from a safety and traffic standpoint. So I do have concerns about the first year. They become much less in the second year, but again, I still, and again, I'll keep going by there, and I keep trying to say, am I being too old-fashioned and too concerned about safety? But I still see it. I know there are people there that are trying to take a left, but you know, there's still one lane for a while, and then it becomes two. But until then, I can see them pulling over to try to get by, and then here comes someone the other way, and there's a head-on collision. So that is my only concern in this whole project, has been the traffic, the parking, and the safety. Everything else I like about what you're trying to do. I like the attitude you have, but that is a major concern for me.
If I can chime in 1 second, John.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I know you mentioned the second year of the parking for our tenants. So we do plan on taking over our second side the first year when we do open up. So probably opening day, we do plan on having that parking, the additional 14 spots. So on opening day, we will have 33 spots for consumers to park.
Oh, okay, because I was under the impression that would happen later also.
Just the opening of the cultivation side, since we wanted to just work on the 604 aspect of it, the cultivation on the 606, that's when it'll probably be most likely in the second year, and when we'll hire about additional 10 to 12 more employees.
So the auto body business knows that they are leaving when you open
We'll probably give them a month notice, probably.
604, but they know that's coming, and so they know they don't have a year?
Correct.
Okay, that, I had the auto person going with the second phase in my mind.
No, apologies. Just the cultivation aspect will probably be the second year, but the parking will be from the first year.
Okay, and that business will not be there in the first year?
Auto body?
Yeah.
No.
Okay, because that again, that eases my concern a lot, because I know if they were there and they got business coming in, and then you got business coming in, someone's gonna say, hey.
When we first
going
purchased the
around
building, we actually let them know from day one when we first purchased, we love you guys are awesome to work with, but when we actually get closer to hopefully opening, then we will have to take over the other side, and they understand.
Okay.
And forgive me for not being clear. Thank you, Justin.
All right.
Thank you.
So, and we're asking fewer questions probably than the engineer will. But our idea is just to be sure we're looking at use, and we're looking at the place and the compatibility. So we're looking at more abroad. But these are always the questions that come up, and it's really our due diligence that we go through for every
Can I ask
applicant.
one more question?
Absolutely.
Ask 10 more questions.
I only got one more, I think.
Okay, for now.
So now that I know you're gonna have 606, is it possible that that becomes, and I'm assuming from 606, they could get to 604's parking, correct?
There's
So,
a side that goes into 606, 604 that you can just walk right across.
okay, but
Yeah.
I'm looking at doing this, which again would make my concerns even less prevalent. Is it possible to make it so that all of your customers would come in the driveway at 606, and then they could park at 604 where they would go out, but they would not be coming in at 604? That way, I think the traffic flow going north on Main Street would be able to have a much smoother flow. I very rarely see a lot of traffic at 606. I see a lot of it at 604. So if that was a possibility, that would again ease one of my concerns, which you've already done a good job of starting to ease my concerns. But again, my job is to try to make sure it's as safe as possible for everybody, but certainly it's my neighborhood and my constituents, so I want to make sure they're safe. So again, if that was a possibility, to me, that would extend probably another 50 or 60 feet, the parking away from the traffic light, away from the people trying to get to the left-hand turn, and I think it would, again, make it safer. So if you would consider that, I would certainly appreciate that.
Yes, absolutely. We'll discuss it with our general contractor and our architect, and we will definitely keep you posted on whether or not that's ideal.
Thank you.
Just to add one more thing, just so I understand correctly. So you want them to go through 606 and to
You just
exit out of 604?
Yeah.
Yes, of course.
Okay.
So here's 606
Yeah.
and here's 604. So our facility is on the right side of the building. And 606 is where the automotive shop is currently. So from my understanding, Mr. Terry,
You
You're-
can just call me Terry, that's fine.
council member, so you have an open space, you would want an open space where traffic can enter through 606
Yep.
and park, whether on 604 or 606
Correct.
606 side. So just an open space is what you're requesting.
Yeah, so they would
Okay.
not be on the street at 604 and then being, even if they got to 604 the first way, and then all of a sudden, and there was no way to get to 606, your attendant's gonna have to tell them you gotta go back out and around. If they went in at 606, which again gives, I'm gonna assume that's about 50 feet, and I could be wrong.
Roughly.
But to me, that's another 4 or 5 car lengths of traffic that would not be blocking your entrance or would not be getting blocked by your entrance at 604. So that would be my goal. And I also think you would be just past the gas station.
That's correct.
Entrance, so you would be in a situation where it would be, to me, again, an easier entrance. Your signage would be, this is where you get in, enter. They wouldn't be going past that and then looking for a sign.
Okay.
So.
All right.
And so my question about the parking would be, how much of the parking are you anticipating would be for the employees?
So we're currently going to have about 6 parking spaces for employees due to the fact that we're hiring individuals within the city in our local area. We're hoping that it'll be walking distance.
Okay.
So for ourselves, we're not too far. We reside together and we'll be traveling to work together. So that's only one vehicle. So roughly 5 to 6 parking spaces, and that would be located at our off-site parking.
Okay, I was going to ask
Yes.
that next. That way you're not competing with
Correct.
customers.
Yes.
Okay.
Could I ask a clarifying question? So when we're, say, hypothetically speaking, we come in 606, we're going to exit 604. We were thinking right turn only, obviously, out of 604, and then anybody trying to get back onto 291, take the left, and then jump on up there. So
at Commercial
the whole
Street, yeah.
plan to have it go so it's not anybody coming back down
Yep.
Main Street. Yeah.
That
Okay.
makes
Just wanted to
sense,
clarify. Yeah. Thanks.
You're welcome.
Okay.
So to answer your question, we can definitely work on that.
Okay, I appreciate it.
So I just want to make sure I have the numbers. I have 9 plus 10 plus 14.
That's correct.
All right. So if we're done with traffic, can we move on to signs? Okay, so you referenced some signs, and I'm just looking to see what they're saying here, because I think so I guess we would want to have an idea. I mean, the building commissioner is going to have to review and approve the temporary signage, but I guess it would be helpful for us just to have an idea of what you would be using and what type of signs they would be.
Yeah. Would I be able to come up and show you? Okay.
Sure, sure. Bring the mic in. That's all right.
Thank you. So we currently have a signage pole located here. I know it's fairly small, so forgive me. So there's currently signs, which is currently stationed with Peerless Auto. And what we would plan to do is simply replace it. From Jeff's statement, he stated that as long as it's replaced, we wouldn't need a special permit. If we do put a sign, if we decide to put a sign on our facility, that will be something that we're going to revisit with the planning board.
Okay.
So at the moment, we haven't decided on whether or not we were going to place a sign on our building.
So for our purposes, you're going to use what's already there and simply replace. You're not adding new poles.
Any additional sign, we're going to simply replace it. Correct.
this over if you guys want. I'm just looking to see if there's any other questions from anybody. We are in a public hearing, and so looking around the room, I'm thinking everybody here is in favor of this application, but to be cautious, I would like to open it up to the public to come forth and speak either in favor or in opposition of this special permit application, if you wish. It's not required, it's an opportunity. Okay, not seeing any, I just wanted to make sure it's in the record that it was offered because this is a public hearing. Are there any further questions of the committee at this time? I don't know. Other counselors? You folks have had a chance to, by looking at the tapes, to see the standard conditions that we have put on the special permits when we're recommending them to the city council? Or do you want me to?
If you don't mind.
Yeah,
Okay.
that'd be great.
And other counselors jump in if I miss anything. I'm using the December minutes. Usually, we include the condition that the owner of the building always pay commercial property tax rate to the extent allowed by federal, state, and local laws for the duration of the special permit. 2, that the business retain a minimum 30% Holyoke residents for non-security jobs. Seems like that's well within your wheelhouse of what you're looking to do. That hiring preference be given to security personnel that are retired Holyoke police or are a retired member of another police department now living in the city of Holyoke. 4, that there shall be no marijuana consumption to be allowed on site. And that there shall be no deliveries of retail, recreational, or medical marijuana from the site to individual homes, residences, or people. And I think you already provided your lighting plan to
That's correct.
planning, so you're all set with that.
Photometric? Mm-hmm. Okay, yes.
And you've already talked about that you will have traffic coordinators at your parking lots. But I also want to add to those standard conditions that the existing sidewalks would be either replaced or repaired per DPW. And the language that I read into the record prior relative to the traffic and parking mitigation plan to the city engineer, that part that I already read in, I'm not going to read it all again, if you're good with that, would also become a condition. Is there any member of the committee that can think, and hours of business will be according to ordinance 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. And which days of the week do you want?
So can I just ask one question before we answer that?
Yes.
So I understand that people prior have asked about the hours of operations. So we also do have a cultivation, which we obviously are going to expand it. Mm-hmm. So I know it's stated in the ordinances it has to be 8 to 8. Is there any way or we can talk to anyone in case of extending the hours for our cultivation? Because it does take, obviously, it's a 24-hour job technically.
So what has happened with that is this discussion has come up in the past. There's been an order filed that has been sent over to this committee. And because it's an ordinance change, it has to go through the process. We just recently went through a process on that relative to some distance issues under the ordinance. And so it will come up under regular business that way, but it is a process. But it is being looked at.
So to answer your question, it's going to be 8 to 8 from us Monday through Sunday. Right, yes, for right
7
now.
7 days a week.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Can anybody think of anything I missed? Are there any remaining questions for the applicant? That's Councilor Murphy. It's your last chance. Oh, only kidding.
Okay. So just, I know you guys would like to get moving, so I would like to move things along as quickly as I can. So if I were to ask that we not pass the special permit tonight, if that was the intention, and ask you to review my request on the 606 and 604 and come back to us at our next meeting, I would feel much more comfortable saying absolutely yes if you came out and said, you know, we've reviewed it, yes or no, this is what we can do. Because I really do think that's a major issue for me in terms of safety. I hate to say I'm going to support it and then I don't push for the 606 parking lot and someone gets hit in an accident there. And I mean, literally, I've seen some accidents come close to happening because of the left turn there anyway. So, I mean, would that, a 2-week delay be that much of a harm? And could you get some information for me in 2 weeks?
So we obviously would love to get approved today if possible, or to get into the next step. We obviously are all for your proposal, and we are 100% going to do that. If we could move forward and obviously make it a condition to not, obviously we won't be allowed to open unless we have that condition, I would feel better about that, because of course you mentioned it, we're definitely going to look into it and try to do our best, because like I said, in day one, we do plan on having that side. So it's definitely a request that we can oblige by.
If you don't mind me chiming into what Justin stated, so we're just planning on moving forward due to the fact that we do understand that you guys would be going, council, excuse me, would be going on vacation. And so due to the fact that our architect is usually very busy around this time, and it may take some time for us to redraw the drawings, have that conversation with her, and so on and so forth. So it may take an additional month, 4 to 6 weeks. There is a lot of time and effort that goes into looking into these plans and seeing if it's even possible. But like Justin stated, if it is a possibility to make it a condition, we are more than happy to go into more detail with our architect and the city engineer and so on and so forth.
If I may, if you're okay with the idea that we make that a condition, I would like to make that 606 Main Street become the main entrance to your facility as part of the conditions, if we can do that. I know the engineers
We
going to review things, but to
can
me,
add a condition.
I mean, I
and
think they're in agreement with it, and I do think that would, I would, you know, I think it makes the whole situation a
I think,
much safer environment.
sorry, Council.
Just to be clear, we already have a condition where at the end of the day, we will defer to the engineer relative to that. But we can also put the condition, there's already a curb cut for 606, right?
That's correct.
So it's not going to change the
No.
lot or the land or any of that?
No.
I think the bigger concern is just making sure that when we plan that out, we do it appropriately so that we can understand exactly how that flow will work once you enter the parking lot.
Right.
But 100%, if it is a condition that needs to be met in order to meet the safety and traffic, then it would be something we'd definitely entertain.
So what is the language that you would like to add?
The applicant would make the primary entrance off of Main Street at 606 Main Street and the primary exit at 604 Main Street, and that the exit be a right turn only.
And I actually took very specific notes of what we talked about.
Okay.
So we can definitely make that into a plan. Is there a way to provide that to you ahead of time? Or if it's a condition?
If we make it a condition and the council approves it, then I would expect you're going to follow through that
Right.
condition.
Absolutely.
And
Right,
you all
because-
seem to be in agreement. And again, I would just feel much more comfortable saying, I'm supporting this. I do support you, and you know that. I
Yes.
mean, we've talked before several times, and I'm all in favor of this, but I want to make sure it's done
Absolutely.
with as minimal possibility of someone getting hit, because we're not controlling the traffic flow.
Totally understandable.
So before we finalize, when we talk to our architect and we do finalize our plans, is there any way we can meet with you to show you, to make sure that it meets your expectations?
Yeah, I'm pretty easy to get in touch with.
Yeah.
Believe me, there's a lot of people getting in touch with me now.
And it would be good to include our engineer in that. Jim.
Yes, absolutely.
Counselor Bartley?
Yeah, thanks, guys, for your investment in City of Holyoke. I really appreciate you reaching out. Sorry I couldn't get back to you, but I really appreciate you guys being here, and you got a great show of support. The no left-hand turn, that's a little fuzzy to me, coming out of your lot. Are you gonna build up a you know, you're gonna build up a cement block, so you force cars to turn right coming out of there? How do you, because, you know, you can't just put up a sign and expect that, because that doesn't have the force of law, right? So how do you propose to do that?
So we would actually, as John was saying, we were going to have the folks that are actually working the areas in the front of the facility, and so they would be helping to direct traffic
So
and
when they
making
go
sure.
away, I mean, they're not gonna be there, are they there 8 to 8?
They'll be 8 to 8, yeah.
7 days a week?
Yeah,
Until when?
indefinitely.
They're going to be the on-site parking coordinators.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah. We paid particular focus to making sure that they're actually individuals that can help move the traffic versus just signage.
But you realize that is probably a rather expensive proposition.
It is. So we were exploring the idea of auxiliary police, hiring security, details, figuring out based on what is necessary.
Well, I don't, so there is detail work. That's the uniformed police officer. And that is a pretty hefty hourly rate.
It is
I don't remember what it is, but it is a significant fee.
significant, yeah.
And then if there are no uniformed officers available, they will contact the auxiliary police, which is a more reasonable rate. And I think that's regular, whatever Massachusetts minimum wage is. So, I mean, hypothetically, one might be $48 an hour and one might be $15 an hour. But that's subject to HPD making that determination. Then as far as private guys on the street, yeah, it doesn't work that way for, you know, monitoring municipal roads. So for you to say that you're gonna have, you know, 12 hours a day, 7 days a week is a massive expense. And I would suggest to you there's probably a more economical way to do that. And that would be contacting your engineer or your architect to properly design. Furthermore, that particular area road, if you would just travel a little bit south of that, you would notice a divider. Is it a Sitco station, Terry? What is it? We just did that in DGR. I had to step out of that meeting, but whatever the gas station is just south of that, just past the
way down,
and it's
yeah.
391, just past the 391 interchange, there is a divider in the roadbed. If the city can put a divider in the roadbed at that location, I'm going to suggest to you the city could put a divider in the roadbed at your location. The city might require you to pay for that, but without a doubt, that would be much less costly than having a 12-hour, day uniformed police officer controlling traffic.
Absolutely.
I mean, you're, Madam Chair, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I'm sorry. You weren't finished yet.
Well, yeah, I just want to, if you want to interject, I'm happy to have you interject.
Well, the only thing I wanted to interject was that at one point they had mentioned that they might hire people of their own to be the coordinators inside the lot.
And that's cool, but
I get what you're
coordinators,
saying,
coordinators in a public way
Can't go on that street, right?
can't do it.
Yeah.
That's municipal law.
Yeah.
They could only be in the lot.
They could be within the lot. Right, I suppose they could be,
So that was all.
I suppose they could stand right there before the curb and maybe tell them, but that's a tough one, guys.
Yeah, I think that we would have to sit down with the team and really discuss what route we can take. But I think that's a great suggestion, and we would definitely get in contact with the city engineer to see if we can work with him and possibly implement such a divider.
So if it's $50 a day, let's just say the uniformed police officer is $50 an hour, and that's $600 a day times 7 days a week.
That's $4,200.
Well, there goes your extra 2% to the Boys and Girls Club pretty fast, and to anywhere else that you were thinking about.
Yes.
And whatever other funds that you were thinking about for Morgan School. Which is, Councilor Murphy, he raised a point, and he raised a point that I have raised numerous times for numerous other applicants, that I don't like doing these at one fell swoop. And this is the reason why. Because we don't clearly think it out, we don't get all the questions answered, and then other questions come up, and next thing you know, we're sitting here on a Tuesday night and we go ahead and do it, and then, the rush is understood, but I would ask you to, and I would ask the committee to maybe think it out a little bit, and, the next time we would meet, it's a chair lady's discretion, of course, but we would generally meet second Tuesday. Unfortunately, we're having fourth Tuesdays now coming back, but, so that would mean June 11th, and that would mean June 11th, and then the next city council meeting would be June 18th. So that's a little south of 30 days delay to have you think this out a little bit more clearly. That turn right there is bad as it is. I don't know it that well. I'm not down there that often, but I do some business with Gil, and now I know he's moved up to Amherst. But I've done some business with him over the years. And I know my dad loves going there a lot too. So I would ask you to sort of, I ask the committee to sort of think this out a little bit. I mean, I don't mind closing the public hearing, but I would maybe consider. And the chair has discretion too. I mean, we've done meetings on short order too. And that's up to the chair if she wants to do that. I'd make myself available. If you thought you could have an answer turned around quicker than that, the chair could, for example, call an ordinance committee meeting the night of a regular city council meeting beforehand, say at 5:30. I would make myself available because I'm just so grateful for you guys investing your time and energy in here. So she has that discretion to do that. And if that were the case, hypothetically, we could meet at 5:30 on June 4th, assuming you guys got all your ducks lined up, and then we could get this clarified then and there, and then we could put it before the full board, a full council, I'm sorry, on June, because that's the earliest you're going to get before
June 5th,
Let me,
June 5th, I'm sorry.
right?
Is that what it, June 5th? Whatever that Tuesday
The
is.
4th is the Tuesday.
so it'd be June 4th and then June 11th?
Yeah.
No,
No,
we
no.
would do everything on the 4th.
Oh,
If
okay.
we could meet on the,
Potentially.
If we did this, yeah.
totally at her discretion. But if we did it on the 4th, if you guys thought you could get this lined up for June 4th, hypothetically, she could call an ordinance committee meeting at 5:30 on June 4th. It would still be on the June 4th regular city council agenda, so we wouldn't violate any open meeting laws. It would just say, awaiting disposition, and perfectly legal to do that. I just think this is a big question. You've got to run it by the city engineer because of your location. It's a good location for you, but it's a tough location for traffic and pedestrians, and I would just encourage you to look a little south of that, just past the interchange of 391. I mean, that's just my thought. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay, thank you. So I just also want to add something that I think we should add as a condition, which has become typical also, and that is that the applicant shall provide traffic patrols should customer traffic impede the flow of regular traffic as recommended by HPD. Okay, so this condition says if there's a problem, you have to use the police. Otherwise, you can use your people. Okay, so it makes it conditional. It doesn't make it 12 hours a day, every day, necessarily. But on the other hand, if there is a problem, then you're going to address the problem. And I think that's how we have, in the past, written it, so that the concerns relative to the plan are one thing, and the concerns relative to things that aren't anticipated by anybody can be covered another way. So I would suggest that we add that as a condition also. So, Councilor Murphy.
Just in reply to Councilor Bartley, and I agree that his comments are excellent in terms of safety, and I will gladly walk with the city engineer and go down there in the next day or so, if he's available to me. He's been pretty good giving me an hour here and there, and we can go in. What I'm thinking in terms of 604 is that you actually would have it where you ended up, it's a driveway that's going out to the right and would not be able, and then you would have like a little island that you would have there that would prevent someone from taking the left, which I think Councilor Bartley's comments about cost would be far
great.
less,
Yeah.
and also would be more far safer than, because he's correct. I'm sure there will be people that are going to go there if we don't have that little extra right turn. They're going to go there and say, I'm going left no matter what. And if you put them in that situation, I mean, there are some stupid people in the world, but I'll assume they're not that stupid.
I'm sure.
Counselor Bartley?
Yeah, just when you had the map up before, I don't know that area intimately, but I am, you know, I didn't just move to town yesterday either, so the traffic flow around there has to be really thought out. And the way it's set up now with Water Street and with the bridge, I mean, if you had a right-hand turn only coming out of 604, I mean, how do you get cars, how do you get motorists back to 391 in an efficient way? I'm not real clear on that. So to go back around your building leads to a one-way going the wrong way. So now, that being said, there's nothing wrong with having that re-engineered. We've done it before in other areas, in other areas. So you could imagine having people come out, making a big loop and coming out to Water Street. Water Street is now a one-way going, well, east in that part. You go east and then north. But what if it looped around and made that little section a two-way? And you can move that to be, I'm not an engineer, so I'm not pretending either, but I'm just saying, we've done it before, the city has, to sort of, you know, reconfigure traffic, to loop it around, especially when there's gonna be high volume, which, you know, gentlemen, I think you're expecting high volume, so, and then convenience is a major issue, and so that area's gotta be, I think it's gotta be re-engineered, frankly. And so, again, if we kind of do this on the fly right now, I think we're doing you guys a disservice in the long term.
Counselor Leahy?
Yeah, thank you, gentlemen. As you guys are speaking, the only thing I'm familiar with and I can think of is, I don't know if you guys are familiar with the Treehouse Brewery. They have a right turn only when you leave the brewery, and that's actually structured within their own property, so it's not on the street. And so the way they engineered it is you have to take a right. And however, what happens with that is similar to this situation, whereas to get back into the Mass Pike to go westbound, you really need to take a left. So what happens is people are taking either illegal U-turns or they're going into other people's property to do that. The Holyoke Police Department, you guys can work on that. But my only suggestion to you is maybe take a trip down there, and if you do, bring me back a couple IPAs. But it's engineered within their own property, so that might be of some value to you guys as well. Thank you.
Thank you. So since we're at the point where the feedback that we would be needing would be from the internal departments, and we're not seeking other outside facts, I do think we would be in order if there was interest in making a motion to close the public hearing tonight.
Yeah, I don't think there's anybody here, so I'll make a motion to close the public hearing.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so the public hearing is closed, so now we have to figure out the timing and if we could reasonably get the information and meet. We don't have to do public notice that it's continued to a date and time certain because the public hearing is closed. So we're under the open meeting law notice that it has to be 48 hours. So
Counselor,
it's
can I
not-
just ask one question? Just to go back to what you suggested, when we come back on a later date, do you want to see a plan that is approved by the engineer that we have? Like, how do we bring it to your attention or show you guys that we've spoke to the engineer and he agrees with our future plans?
Well, yes, so you've got to contact your engineer, your private engineer, and then put he or she in contact with Mr. Parent, if you think this makes sense. I mean, I'm just saying that if I were you, I would contact Mr. Parent first and foremost, meet with Councilor Murphy on site and with Mr. Parent, try to, review, I mean, Council Murphy is fully aware of what my thoughts are, and I think we're in agreement here. Try to figure out some kind of mitigating factor for that left-hand turn issue. That's just problematic right now, gentlemen. And then, that's A, and then B, if there is a way to mitigate it and the traffic flow's right, how do you efficiently get them back to 391? And I'm going to suggest to you that the engineer says, well, you got a one-way on South Water Street. Well, we know that. But can you can you make that portion of the street a two-way street and push back the do not enter sign to Bridge? Is it Bridge or Southbridge Street?
Southbridge, yeah.
Yeah, push it back there. That's been done before. I can tell you that right now, where it's done in 2 places in the ward I represent. So it's a feasible alternative, especially with your kind of traffic volume.
Right, so I think what we're looking for as a committee relative to the use and the granting of the special permit is that the safety and traffic concerns can be mitigated. I mean, I'm not trying to contradict you, Councilor Bartley, but the actual full plan would have to go to the engineer before the retail opens, if we use this condition recommended by our engineer for the actual plan itself.
Hey, may I?
Yes?
Yeah, so I would just say, that we, in a special permit, under 9.4.2, we have really vast authority, within reason. I mean, it can't be idiotic, but pretty vast authority to put whatever condition we want on any special permit. The law is so broad, it's ridiculous, but that's good for us.
Yes.
And I think that's good for a public purpose as well. So I would feel better having, if the chair would entertain it, I'd like to continue this meeting to June 4th at 5:30. That gives you time to talk to Councilor Murphy, talk to Mr. Parent at a minimum, and then get us something at that meeting, June 4th, preferably beforehand, if you could forward it to Mr. Allen, so he could disseminate it to the committee. That gives us something to look at, and then if we see it's a work in progress, we can also condition the permit upon completion of that work in progress, so that wouldn't slow you down.
So if you don't mind me stating something, council member, we've had multiple conversations with the city engineer, Bob, and we've worked on our parking spaces multiple times to try to get a convenient way or efficient way to enter and exit the facility. Something very similar was brought to his attention to be able to have or prevent traffic making a left out of our facility. And it was something, and not to quote the city engineer, but he stated that it wasn't going to be efficient creating such changes. Now, of course, we can always revisit that and speak to Bob and see how we can implement some sort of changes to be able to efficiently get the traffic either making that right.
Well, if I may.
Of course.
If I may, then I will make myself available when Councilor Murphy calls a meeting with Mr. Parent on site. I will make myself available to attend that meeting.
Okay, wonderful.
All right.
Thank you, Council.
I'll call you on that.
Councilor Murphy?
So again, I think the right turn and what Councilor Leahy has just talked about is what I'm thinking as well, that you're basically creating a curve where you have to go right. And as far as getting back on the 391, I mean, if we had to put signage there and/or going back on Main Street, going south on Main Street, which is also another issue, I mean, we could be in a situation where they get to the light where it is a left turn signal, go up one street, and we could then have them going one more, take a left, and then they're on South Street and back on Main Street or on 391. So that's it may be a slight inconvenience, but it's certainly a lot safer than trying to have people cross over to the left. And I do think it would resolve most of the traffic concerns. So again, and I would, if 2 weeks, I'm pretty certain 2 weeks probably doesn't make you happy, but it doesn't kill the program, and I think it would satisfy a lot of the concerns that we have. And I will communicate with the city engineer tomorrow and try to get where I can go down, and I'll contact Councilor Bartley on that, and you guys as well, letting you know we're gonna go down there on whatever. And he's usually pretty available, so if he's working and he's got a chance to give me a half hour or so, or an hour somewhere down the line, we'll try to do that either this week or early next week. And if we're willing to meet at 5:30 on the 4th, we could have everything done and everybody satisfied in terms of the traffic and the safety. And then on the 4th, we can say there's no other concerns we have, so.
No. Counselor Sullivan.
I'd just like to say I'd really like to see the committee move it forward tonight. We've spelled out a pretty good term and condition and the direction we want the traffic to go in, and to have the term and condition pending the approval of the DPW and the city engineer with the safety concerns that have been laid out here in mind. And just move that portion, move the thing forward tonight. It might take 3 weeks, it might take 4 weeks to answer this, but the important thing for us will be to have the approval, have the city engineer and the DPW on board with whatever it is we're putting forward as far as direction of traffic. That gives them plenty of time to work on that and doesn't hold up the rest of the process, because it's still a term and condition of the permit that they have to comply with.
Thank you.
Yep.
Okay, so what is the pleasure of the committee?
Motion to continue June 4th at 5:30. Whatever the date is June 4th or 5th?
4th.
So we're tabling it to June 4th at 5:30? Because the
Oh, we
public
already
hearing's
closed it.
closed, right?
Motion to table.
Yeah. And again, I just want to, it's 2 weeks, you got to tell me. Is 2 weeks going to be that dramatic, or can you handle 2 weeks? And
To be honest, we're gonna hopefully meet with Mr. Perrion, I believe his name
Perrion,
is,
yeah.
tomorrow. So we're gonna come here, start at ASAP. So it's whatever the council feels is necessary, then that's what we'll follow.
Absolutely, but fact of the matter is, like what the council member just stated, it may take 2 weeks. It can possibly take anywhere between 3-4 weeks. And that's just a statement we don't know. But yes, like Justin just stated, we will be working day in and day out to be able to meet your expectations. So we'll be starting that process as soon as tomorrow.
Okay, so before I get a second on a motion to table, because it's not debatable, do I have a quorum for a meeting on June 4th at 5:30?
Yep.
You're
I'll be there.
available? You're available? I can be available?
Yep.
Okay. All right, just check that out before we table it to
Well,
a date certain.
just point of order.
Yes.
Is this on tomorrow's agenda?
It may be on tomorrow's agenda awaiting disposition, simply because everything that was on tonight's agenda is.
Okay, well, so Councilor Sullivan raised a point. Okay, I didn't realize it was on tomorrow's agenda awaiting disposition, but.
Every item 1 through 5 is on the agenda in that fashion.
Well, I, for one, would rather have the answer. So if it's on I'm not going to vote for it if it's tomorrow. I'm going to vote no tomorrow.
All that we would say, if it's tabled in committee to June 4th tomorrow, it would be that it's tabled until June 4th.
Yeah, so I'd rather have as much intel as possible before I take a vote on something this significant.
Okay, so is there a second on the motion to table to June 4th at 5:30?
I'm gonna in a minute, but, so, I want all your cards, because I'm gonna speak with the engineer tomorrow and try to get this together and get everything organized, because if the city engineer tells me, yes, this is what could do to make sure it's gonna be turning right, and he tells me that, and you guys say, hey, I'm with it, then, and if we ended up doing that, if I met with him tomorrow and he was able to do that, and he said this is exactly what can be done, and you were in agreement with that, I would, and I don't want to offend anybody, but I would be willing to, when it comes up tomorrow, to actually see if we take it out of committee, because we got the additional information. I
Okay,
don't
well,
know if
then
that's going to happen.
Okay, well then, before I entertain the second on the motion to table, then we would have to, if you were going to have the remote consideration of doing that, we would have to button down the conditions on the special permit that have so far been generally discussed but not voted on.
Okay, well,
So does the committee want to do that now?
Sure, sure.
Okay. So this is what I have, and correct me if I'm missing anything. So I have that, should we move forward with recommending the special permit, these are the conditions. One, that the owner of the building always pay commercial property tax rate to the extent allowed by federal, state, and local laws for the duration of the special permit. Two, that the business retain a minimum of 30% Holyoke residents for non-security jobs. Three, that the hiring preference be given to security personnel that are retired Holyoke police or are retired member of another police department now living in the city of Holyoke. Four, that there shall be no marijuana consumption to be allowed on site. Five, there shall be no deliveries of retail, recreational, or medical marijuana from the site to individual homes, residences, or people. Six, that the applicant shall provide traffic patrol should customer traffic impede flow of regular traffic as recommended by the HPD. Seven, in accordance with the letter dated April 18th from DPW, item 2, the existing sidewalks will be replaced or repaired. So that was 7, I think. 8, that applicant shall submit a traffic and parking mitigation plan to the city engineer a minimum of 45 days in advance of beginning retail sales. This mitigation plan is to be subject to the review of the city engineer and city public safety officials. Opening of the facility is not to occur until all concerns of these departments have been addressed and this plan has been approved by the city engineer. All costs associated with preparing and implementing this plan are to be borne by the applicant. The traffic and parking mitigation plan is to be updated as needed to respond to any issues that occur when a facility is in operation. The requirements of this plan may be reduced or waived by the city engineer. And 9, to add that the applicant will make the primary entrance at 606 Main and the exit at 604 Main with a right turn only. Right?
Yep.
And the hours, number 10, 8 a.m. to 8 p.m., 7 days per week. Does anybody have any other conditions to add? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to,
Well, I'll make a
To
motion, I'll make a
list-
motion to amend as stated, but I just want to make a comment once it's seconded.
are you gonna second it? These are the stated
So I'll-
conditions
So
that we're,
I move to
developing.
amend the special permit as stated by the chair. with
Second,
condi-
second.
Okay, just under discussion. 6 and 9, or 6 is the police, and then the other one is with the entering 606 and
Yes.
exiting 6, that's, what number is that, 10? Or is that 9?
9.
Okay, so 6 and 9, again, Terry's, Council Murphy, I hear what he said. I want to make sure that that's on 9, that's really what's happening, what the city engineer wants to see happen with that. So that one, that's got a potential to be amended on the floor. And then 6, relative to the police department's pre-approval, that gets into the cost aspect, Madam Chair. So I would say that we ought to think about that one as well.
Okay, so I would just clarify that for number 6, we have included that when we were in a situation where we didn't know what the volume would be, and this is if a situation arises. It's saying if the customer traffic impedes the flow of the regular traffic, that then the applicant would provide the traffic patrol versus the traffic coordination that they can do on their own
No,
property.
I heard.
So
that.
that's all.
I heard that.
All right,
I
all
guess,
right,
I guess
all
what I'm
right.
saying is that if we leave it loose like that, I mean, those, the
Determines it.
conditions on a special permit or until it's
Well, the
amended.
police would determine it at the
Right,
point
right,
at
so-
which they were notified if there's an issue.
Right, and I, listen, I want the police to have as much authority as possible, but a condition on a special permit like that really allows the police department to basically have a detail officer there 12 hours a day, 7 days a week. So I'm just, listen,
Okay.
I don't want to amend it right now.
Okay.
I'm okay with that motion, but it would be, again, that's why I think it's imperative
So,
to,
yeah.
I think it's imperative to continue, not to have a, you know, if we can get it done by 2 o'clock tomorrow, instead of that, I don't want to hear that. I'd rather just have it go to June 4th at 5:30, frankly.
So here's the thing, right now we have a motion before us, and this is the list of proposed conditions tonight. So then, depending what happens on June 4th, these can be amended on June 4th.
Absolutely, so the
So
motion
this is
to
a
table June
list
4th.
right now, that's all it is.
So I'll renew my motions. My motion's to table to June 4th at 5:30.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
No,
Okay, well, thank you for making the quorum, I really appreciate that.
Yes.
We're gonna go to 4.
Because he's here.
Yes,
Thank you, committee. I appreciate it.
thank you very much.
You always weigh in with important comments.
Thank you, guys.
Oh,
Yeah, it helps me.
all right.
You're not just you're not just a pretty face at the table.
I've never been accused of that.
I'm very handsome.
Good to see you. How you doing?
It's just for the item to make the quorum.
Good.
You appreciate it. Yes. You don't, so, you're not obligated past the item that we had taken up. Right. Either way, it's fine. Well, as much as any single board does.
2 and 3 here?
Can we go to 4? Can we go to 4 because we have Captain Kavanagh here?
I know we're Captain Cabinet, but can we just knock out 5 and just get it over with?
Is there somebody here on it?
I think we can just vote.
Okay.
Well, let's see if 2 and 3 are here.
I just want to go to 5 for, 4 for Captain Kavanagh.
All right, I hear you. All right, well, we got to get a quorum back.
Where's my committee? Terry,
Okay.
I need a gavel. I'm gonna have to bring my gavel.
Okay.
Bing, bing.
All right.
Okay, see you on the 4th. Counselors? Oh. Yeah. Counselors?
Best wishes, yeah. Best wishes. Yeah, I'll be here. Madam Chair, I make a motion to suspend the rules and take item number 4 out of order.
All out there. Do I have a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Item 4 was filed by Counselor Valentin, that the City Council in Chapter 42, Article 1, Section 18, modify the plan review fee on the last line of the chart to state that the 5 cent per square foot is to be charged only on the portion of the premises where the work is being carried out. I see we have Captain Kavanagh with us. We have Counselor Valentin with us, who's the maker of the order. So, Counselor Valentin, would you like to just frame
Sure.
why we're here? And I do have correspondence, but,
Yep. Maybe when people settle down, because it
Yep.
got kind of loud for a minute.
yeah.
Okay, I think it's good. The hallway noise was coming in. Stephen, you want to close that just a
Shut
little? Yeah,
one.
thank you.
And you can shut it partway, as long as
Yeah.
people aren't excluded.
There we go. Much better. The echo from the hallway is.
Leave it like
That's
that,
good.
leave it like that.
That's good, Stephen.
Don't close
You
it.
can't
Don't-
close it all the way.
Just leave it a little bit like ajar.
Yeah.
It is, well, there's a,
But
There we
that-
go.
Right there,
That's
it's good.
good.
Right there,
That's
it's
good.
good.
that latches out.
That's
You
okay.
really can't close it.
That's fine. All right, thank you so much. So thank you for taking this item out of order so that the fire department staff that's here, as well as, I think, two city landlords that are here. Hopefully, we can suspend the rules and allow them to speak. This is an order that I filed after having a conversation with one of our city landlords who had several discussions with others And this is actually, there's a correspondence that I had sent to the Madam Chair. This was something that the council had taken up in June 2018, and so the request is to take a look at it and see if there's any way to revise it in a way where landlords feel it may be a more fair situation. And just in summary, the idea is to review the fee so that, as the wording in the order states, a new fee of 5 cents per square foot would be actually for where the work is being carried out instead of the whole building itself. And so I was given a couple of examples where this had been an issue, and it had also been brought to my attention that this is a departure from the usual MO by, for example, the building department. And so kind of the discrepancy between how fees are being assessed by the building department versus the fire department, and how it's impacting, for example, our city landlord. So that's where the order has come from. And I did, like I said, send the communication to the chair, but wanted to be here and obviously offer my comments, and also welcome, hopefully, feedback from both the fire department and the landlords that are here, if the committee is inclined to suspend the rules and allow them for public comment. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Captain Kavanagh, thank you for coming down. I know it was short notice.
My pleasure.
And I did have communication from Chief Pond on this matter as well. And I think Councilor Valentin, raises a couple of interesting points in terms of how the different departments are charging out the permitting fees. And maybe you could help us out and give us a little context for how your department has historically charged out the fees. And
Well, this is a new fee. This is the first year that we've even had it on the books.
okay, so when we did that revision that
Yes.
came before us in the summer,
Right.
you had not had.
So as of July of last year,
Okay.
we've started applying this fee.
Okay. So July of 2018. Okay. And maybe you could just tell us about, like, the different people that have come in under the fee, the different type of property owners, and how it's been working?
Well, the fee only applies to projects that require a plan to be reviewed.
Okay.
So pretty substantial projects. And a building's an entire alarm system is a big project. We're talking, plans have to be submitted, they have to be reviewed, the site has to be visited, then we have to go and do an acceptance test. There's a long process, there's a lot involved with that. And there is no longer a permit from the fire department for that installation. Since a change in code back in, I think it was 2016, adopting 2015 code, the permitting is through the building department for a building permit for that new installation.
Okay.
Which means that I'm doing all of the legwork that I have always done regarding a new installation with no compensation whatsoever.
And in the past,
It was a-
permitting would have been through you?
Yes, it was a permit that you paid for. We reviewed the plan, you got us to go and do the inspection, the follow-up inspection to close out the permit.
Okay.
And it was only a $25 permit, so it was very minuscule. It was almost just, just for
The paper.
the paper, exactly. It was an administrative fee, I think, is all that really would cover.
Yeah, and so it was more seen as a
Yes.
public service rather than a
Yes.
permitting.
What brought about the idea of wanting to have this fee is a knowledge on our part and just the amount of hours that go into dealing with these projects. We thought that the 5 cent per square foot fee would recoup some money to justify the man hours that were involved in it.
So Could you just help us understand the perspective where somebody might say charging the fee only of the area of the building where the work is being carried out? Because I mean, I'm just saying as a layperson, I'm kind of looking at that like, okay, so there's this really big building and somebody's building an addition
yep.
or whatever, but could you?
The language for work area comes from Chapter 34 of the International Building Code relating to work that's being done on existing buildings. And in that code, there is the ability for an architect to claim that they're only doing work to a certain portion of the building, and that then puts them in different requirements as far as applying new code to their
Because they're not
project.
changing the structure of the original building?
When we're talking about apartment buildings that are 6-unit or more,
Okay.
it is a Mass General Law in Chapter 148, Section 26C that requires the installation of those alarm systems.
Can you give me that reference again? I'm sorry.
It's Mass General Law,
Yeah,
Chapter 148, which are the regulations regarding fire prevention code, fire prevention laws, Section 26C.
and we all became very familiar with that after
Yes.
the big fire.
Yes, on Northeast Street.
And so we're very vigilant on these, right?
And I've been working tirelessly since I've been in the office there to bring building owners into compliance with that law. And I have a long hill ahead of me before I get complete compliance on that. I'm looking at between 60 and 100 buildings that I'm trying to currently get in compliance with that.
So what would you say our percentage of compliance in this, I know I'm going off a little bit, but what would you say our percentage of compliance is in the city right now?
I don't think it would be
Roughly.
fair for me to give that number without actually having,
Okay,
but I would just tell you that since I've been in the office, we've done 53 projects.
okay. And what would be the time frame on that?
This is since, the numbers that I have are since July.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
When it actually went
Yes.
into effect?
Yep.
Okay. And you have 60 to 100 more to go?
Yes,
Okay, so,
yeah.
okay.
So the idea of claiming work area to describe anything that has to do with that building, I don't, and I wouldn't even consider unless it was decided from outside of my own decision-making capability to apply a fee as part of a work area. There's no language for it in any of the law or code that I enforce. The law specifically says that building needs to have an alarm system. It doesn't say the stairwells to that building have to have an alarm system. It doesn't say, only one specific section of that building has to have an alarm system. The alarm system that is required because of the size and the occupancy of that building. And
So-
everything that I apply is usually I consider the building an aggregate. And that definition is the exterior walls of the building, including the basement and all elevations of the building.
So is there any other reason why your department does a plan review other than the alarms?
We do plan reviews for life safety aspects of buildings.
Okay.
We do plan reviews for site access, where
Yeah.
we have a big say on, in that portion of the review process. When any of the building's utilities affect life safety, there's a lot, and there was a lot of classes and education and stuff that we had to get in credentialing to get us to a level in my office where we were informed enough to even really start making a difference on that aspect.
Right, because
So-
I know you weighed in on the special permit we were just looking
Yes,
at,
yes,
that kind of
yes.
thing. Okay, I just wanted to just sort of get a feel for it a little bit more, thanks. Any questions from anybody?
No, but I'm happy to hear from the public, so I'll make a motion to suspend.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
So we've suspended our rules, so if members from the public would like to weigh in, you can come up to the mic, give us your name and address, and whatever information you would like us to consider.
Is this on?
Yes.
Yeah, sounds like it is. Stephen Bosco, 378 Appleton Street, apartment 4R. I asked Councilor Valentin to introduce this item, and that was after I had done an upgrade of our fire alarm system on one of our buildings, a 16-unit brick apartment block. And I want to be clear that we made a decision to upgrade the fire alarm system on that building, even though nobody was telling us, well, you have to do this. We weren't selling the building. We weren't being told by any authority, you have to do this upgrade. It's just that I've recognized that this is a better kind of alarm system to put in. The upgrade was a system that's addressable and monitored. So if there's smoke that hits one of the smoke heads in the building, a signal goes out to a monitoring company somewhere. The monitoring company calls the fire department and they say, there's smoke detected on the fourth floor smoke detector on the left side of the building, or basement on the right side of the building, that kind of thing, versus just an interconnected smoke alarm system that starts ringing and then it waits until somebody calls the fire department and says, hey, there's smoke alarms ringing over here, and then they have to come out and try to figure out where the fire is happening. So it was an upgrade that I wanted to do voluntarily. And just if I can digress a little bit further, the system that I did have in the building was a 120 volt interconnected smoke alarm system, which was installed, was properly installed, and it was in compliance with the law at the time it was installed. And as such, it is grandfathered in, or was grandfathered in as a compliant system. This is something that we researched and cleared with the state Department of Fire Services. Nevertheless, we wanted to make that upgrade, and we want to make that upgrade on other buildings that I own as well. I own 160 units. Most of them are here in the city of Holyoke. So as part of having that system upgraded, we hired a licensed electrician to run the wiring. We hired a licensed alarm contractor to supply the equipment and make the drawings of how it would be laid out. I applied for a permit with the electrical inspector. That was a $70 permit fee. We also applied for another permit with the building commissioner. That was a $100 fee. They reviewed the design of the system. And then we also went to pay the fire department plan review fee, which I was told was going to be just shy of $1,000. That represented a significant piece of the cost of putting the system in. I was a little surprised at that because the system doesn't cover the entire building. It covers the common areas, the stairways, and the basement. There's no alarms that are installed inside the apartments themselves. So then I began to look into what this fee was and found out that it was just passed by the council last June, and I asked around. I wasn't really clear if the council had intended this to apply to an entire building site, or if there was just kind of a silent assumption that it was going to be applied the same way that the building department applies the permit fees, which is it's on the work area where the work is being carried out. So if I was to pay this fee according to the area, the work area would be something like $200 or $300. If it's the whole building, including the basement, it would be close to $1,000. It's possible to imagine an even more extreme scenario. If you had like a 400,000 square foot mill and you were just doing work in a small area of the mill, you could say, well, it's a $20,000 permit fee for that, even though you're only doing it in a relatively small area of the building. Let's see, there was a couple more things I wanted to say, and it just so there's obviously the issue of not being punitive towards owners who are voluntarily upgrading systems. And I guess one other thing to point out is that this is already a pretty heavily regulated process where, especially the alarm contractor, somebody has to be licensed. They have to design and install the system according to the manufacturer's standards. And they have to test the system and make sure that it's working properly and then put their name on it. If there was to be a fire in the building and things didn't work properly, they would be on the hook. So I don't, to me, this is already, I mean, I maybe don't have a complete perspective on what everybody does and what everybody's concerns are, but from my perspective, we have an electrical inspector, we have a building inspector, we have a licensed electrician, we have a licensed alarm contractor that are already kind of overseeing this whole process to make sure that it's done properly. So I don't, it's not like the fire department's all out on their own, completely bottom lining this and nobody else is a stakeholder. Nobody else is putting their name on this. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anybody else wish to be heard? Okay, Councilor Bartley.
Yeah, just Captain, do you want to address that one little part there? The hypothetical. So it's a mill building, it's 400,000 square feet, and there's, you heard.
The extent of renovation could get pricey, yeah, the fee. But any kind of a development that's that size is going to be a substantial investment in money in the first place. And they're going to be most likely changing, no matter what, it's going to be a change of occupancy in there, unless it's, I don't know why they would take a mill and upgrade it unless they were changing it into something else. When they do that, there are a lot of concerns that the fire department's going to have with the systems that go in there. And there's a lot of research that goes into what should be done or what has been done at other facilities in other parts of the country. It's not cut and dry. It's very time consuming on my part and the building department's part with a project like that. They do charge a considerable fee for projects of that size.
So, which, yeah, I'm here on that, Captain. So I just want to, if I could think of another extreme example, I would, but I can't think of one right now. But I think what I'm trying to drive at is there some kind of is there some kind of reasonability standard? So just say, I'll think of another hypothetical. Just say there's a building with 4 distinct wings, 4 very distinct wings, and only one of the 4 wings is going to be affected. So the other 3 wings, as a professional, they are not affected. They're not even what in that limited hypothetical. I mean,
when a section of a building is going to be changed, and the change that's happening to that is derived from the requirement from Chapter 34 of the International Building Code, there is language for work areas.
Okay.
But there's nothing about a building getting a new alarm system at all that would apply to.
I hear you. So, okay, so there is a little bit of flexibility right there. And it's built into Chapter 34.
Yes.
Okay, so I'm satisfied. Thank you, Madam Chair, I appreciate it.
Okay, so I just want to make sure I understood what you said.
Well, let me
there.
give you an idea. If we say we have a high-rise office building, and they're going to be doing renovation to 1 floor of it, we only charge for the area that's being renovated. That's the building department. That section is being renovated. The rest of the building's systems are not being changed or upgraded or being put in per a code requirement as new.
So in that example,
Yes.
it would be
It would be different, yes.
constrained to that.
Yes.
But in this example that we're talking about with the alarms,
Yes.
because regardless of the actual physical work area,
Yep.
the alarm is for the entirety
Yes.
of the building?
Now, the alarm systems that were, I'm not going to call them alarm systems, the smoke detectors that were installed in a lot of these buildings are high voltage, 120 volt interconnected smoke detectors. That was understood for a very long time by most of the building owners around to be the only requirement. And a lot, the idea of grandfathering has been debunked. There is no one was grandfathered.
Okay,
The directive that I have from the fire marshal's office to start enforcing 26C, That's from the fire marshal's office. No one went to the fire marshal's office and was told they were grandfathered. It's impossible.
Okay, because this became a huge discussion
Yes,
after that big fire.
Absolutely, yes.
And I learned more about it. I've probably forgotten a lot of it now.
So the alarm
But-
system that goes in now is a low voltage system and actually requires the old system to be removed in order to be put in.
And if it's over X units, it must communicate.
6 units, yes.
Oh, if it's over 6 units.
6 units. yes.
Because I remember this became a huge issue. Where was the liability? Who was supposed to do what?
Right.
And what the understanding was versus what the law was, et cetera.
Yep.
And so now,
We've had great success with people being cooperative with this since we started enforcing it. Most of the enforcement that has happened is on sale or transfer. People come to us, they want their smoke certificate to be able to sell the building.
Yep.
Well, we do a review, we do a site visit, notice that they don't have this compliant alarm system that's required by the law, and it's supposed to have been installed since the mid-90s. But the failing on that was just a failing in enforcement statewide. So we're coming at this now to basically clean up the mess.
okay.
But like I said, the directive that I have is from the fire marshal's office to insist and to get these buildings up to compliance with that alarm system.
And I know they're the final word.
Yes, and building owners in Holyoke that know about it are voluntarily coming forward and coming to me with plans to voluntarily come into compliance with this. I appreciate that. That's
Right.
fantastic, but
Right.
there's still this modicum of work that has to be put in on my part. Even the day that we go and do the acceptance testing on a 20 or 40 unit building, I'm bringing my entire office. I'm bringing a staff of 4 people, and I'm bringing into work then also the alarm room, who have to receive signals and tell us what, we're timing them to see that they're coming in to make sure that the equipment that's installed is operating per the manufacturer's recommendations. It's a process. It's very time consuming, but the plans review part gets that as well. It gets us from the beginning involved with the project, not just, they're not just calling me saying, hey, I need you to come and do an alarm final. I'm getting it from the beginning. And I have some say and some review, privilege there to either insist on things that I know are involved that were overlooked. There's a lot to it.
So with the current systems that are out there, I guess back in the day, there were 2 different ways they could communicate, but now is the communication system reliable relative to these?
The code that describes acceptable communication systems, NFPA 72, is very flexible. There's a bunch of different methods: telephone, cellular, internet protocol, and RF transmission, which is radio box transmission.
But you feel confident that the ones that are being installed
Absolutely.
are
Yep.
reliable in terms of that, whatever it is they use?
Yes. Yep.
Okay, Counselor Sullivan, were you in the queue?
Yeah, thank you. Just also, as far as any comparison with any work being done at mill buildings, I can't think of any right now that are 400,000 square feet. There are some that are in the neighborhood of 150 to 250,000 square feet. And it involves a lot more than just an alarm system. There's a lot of work that the fire department has to put in. Also on the planning side there, a lot of these sprinkler heads aren't up to code. Even the pipe sizes that were legal when these buildings were built or even modified as early as the 1950s and 60s has changed. We have different backflow preventer regulations, different types of valves. It's very intense. And then the testing that goes into the system, where the fire department has to be there on the spot all the time, even to the point of watching for anything coming through the line so it can't plug into the sprinkler heads, get into the system as the system's charged. It is very time intensive for the department. So if there was a 400,000 foot building, you'd probably looking at somewhere in the neighborhood of a $250,000 on the low side to a $500,000 upgrade just on the fire system alone. So if somebody's spending $500,000, if the fee was $5,000 on a 100, that's not going to be a showstopper. That's part of the build-out plan and that kind of a renovation.
Counselor Bartley?
Well, I'm ready to vote on this if you want. So.
Counselor Murphy?
Just a couple of things, and again, wasn't here when the ordinance was passed. Obviously, I know about the fire, and unfortunate, and I also appreciate the fact that they're trying to do upgrades there. So I'm trying to balance the two. So number one, I'm assuming, Captain, that your department is covered in the budget.
Yes.
And do you know where the fees go? Do they go back to your department, or do
No,
they
it's
go
the
general
city,
fund?
all checks for fees are written to the city of Holyoke. They don't
Okay,
come back to
so
our
back to the
department.
general fund, okay. So, this, other than the fact that money goes back to the city, it does not negatively or positively impact your department? You
It
do
does
spend a
not,
lot
it
of
does
time,
not,
right?
no, and at this point. I mean, I would like to see some of it come back to allow for us to receive additional training. There are things I could see where we could use it that would benefit us to even streamline how things are done in our department. But at this point, right now, we're not coming back to us at all.
Okay, and is there any way that you can see we could provide some relief for landlords that are coming forth to obviously make their buildings safer and be more in compliance, that would do two things? Number one, encourage them to do it,
Right.
and number two, reward them for accepting that encouragement.
That's a good discussion item. I mean, I don't have anything off the top of my head that would help with that. And another thing too is that probably is a discussion that should be had with the chief.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Yeah.
Counselor Valentin?
Thank you. Councilor Murphy stole the words out of my mouth. That's okay. Yeah, I think one of the reasons why, I filed this order, other than the fact that it was a request from someone who, as he said, has 160 units, most of them in Holyoke, and actually lives in my ward, so he is my constituent. He lives in one of his own buildings, which I think more landlords should do, but that's another discussion. So kudos to him for that. I think the reason why I wanted to make sure that we could discuss this, and I was hoping that Chief Pond could be here, but I know that he was not available tonight, is because my thought on all of this was, is there a way to do an incentive? As Mr. Boschko said, no one told him to do this. He's looking to make his building safer, to be a better landlord, which, as we know, there are not many landlords in the city that are on that train of thought, and again, I wish more were. But it just feels that it's one of these cases where someone is obviously has verbalized, is feeling like it's very punitive, and there's an increase in cost. And I mean, we're kind of in this hard place of, we want to obviously increase revenue for the city because we need it, but at the same time, we want to encourage people that are business owners to do what's right and go above and beyond, and perhaps there's a way to kind of reward them on that sense. So I would be interested in having that conversation, and I understand that it would probably have to be, of course, with Chief Pond. So whatever the committee wants to do, of course, I respectfully will accept. But I do think that if there's an opportunity to have some type of conversation regarding some reward or some incentive or some, I'm not asking for kind of special treatment, but literally a way to reward and incentivize this, I think it would be worth it. So based on that, if the committee would be amenable to tabling it so that we could include Chief Pond in this conversation, that would be great. If not, I've done my due diligence of bringing this in front of you, letting you know what the concern is from at least one landlord in the city. We know more, but obviously one is who came to speak to us tonight. So thank you for both of you for your input and your thoughts on this.
Thank you. I'm just wondering if could you share with us what the range of fees has been?
No?
Okay, all right. It's,
The minimum fee that we receive for our plan is $50.
okay,
So if the square footage is so small that it's the 5 cents per square foot
Okay.
comes up to $50.
Okay.
You know, I'd say the highest that we've gotten were for big build-outs, like the mall. They have some park, trampoline park that went in there.
oh, right. So
Some of
that
the-
must have been a pretty
Yes, yeah.
large
Some of the
fee.
facilities that are going to be turned into cultivation centers, those are bigger projects. But, I mean,
And so when you're doing those, you're using the same basis,
much more involved with my time to do those projects.
right? But you're using the same
Yes,
basis.
exact same fee assessment. Yep.
Well, I guess what I've heard.
I do have, I mean, I can tell you that since July of 2017, we've collected $26,526 in plan review fees.
Since last July.
20,
That's over 54 projects.
okay. Well, I guess the main thing that I've heard from you is, and this is true, I think, of a number of things throughout the city, is we've had to, in some cases, increase our educational knowledge so that we are actually properly enforcing things. And I give businesses credit that understand the law, know the law, and go ahead and do the right thing. But this does sound to me like it's been a law in effect for a long time.
Yes.
And so I guess, you know, if I'm a professional and I'm doing a certain business, then I guess I see it as my responsibility to know what the laws are. You know, I don't wait till I get a traffic ticket to know I should have a license, I guess. Might be one example I would make. But I do see when these things kick in and they're new, and when it's an unexpectedly high amount, you know, I understand where the business is coming from on that. It's like, yeah, I'm doing the right thing, and this, wow, this is so much more than the other ones. So I appreciate understanding more about it and understanding how it compares relatively. So it seems like there's a number of projects that paid a lot more than perhaps the example of the 1,000.
Yes.
And then perhaps there were quite a few that paid less.
I would say most are less. Most are less. Yep.
Okay. Counselor Bartley?
Oh, Mike, did you want to?
Just
I'll
two
go
other
Mike.
thoughts. Besides a monetary value for the landlord, there's in the upgrades, it's not just doing it to be a nice guy. You're improving the safety and the well-being of your tenants in the building, which should be the primary driver, not the few bucks, you know, over 160 units, or well, for anybody, whether it's 12 units or 500 units. Number one. Also, I've got to think that for the property owners, when you do that kind of upgrade, there's got to be an insurance savings as well. So it's not without its own benefits.
Okay, thank you. Counselor Bartley?
If Steve wants to say something,
Oh.
I just want to make a
Okay.
motion, but
Sure, I can,
Ask
I just wanted to speak to both of those things. It's funny, in 26 years in business, I've never had a tenant ask me, hey, what kind of fire protection system do we have in this building? You'd think they would. You'd think at least some of them would, but they don't.
Maybe they presume it.
What's that?
Maybe they presume it.
Perhaps. But that doesn't make it any less my responsibility to protect those folks. I just want to be clear about that. The second thing I wanted to say is that, again, surprisingly, there isn't any insurance benefit to having this kind of system. I thought there would be too. That was my first email after I put the system in, right to the insurance agent. Hey, can we get a little bit off the premium because we have one of these systems in there? No.
Thank you. Counselor Bartley?
yeah, so I just want to make a motion, but I'll just make it two comments. First of all, these are two very honorable property owners that take great care of their properties, and they should be commended, Madam Chair. So there's no question about that. I think bringing in the chief of the fire department, I mean, we have the head of that division of the fire department here, so we're not gonna get any more intel. I think if somebody wants to have a larger discussion, they can have it before the fire commission, and that forum is available for a larger discussion with the fire commissioners present, with the chief present, with the alarm division president, with Captain Cavagnac from fire prevention available. I think that's the proper forum in which to have a larger discussion, not in here. I will say this, I learned a lot tonight. What I learned is a threshold. What I learned is that this has been on the books since the mid-1990s. This is coming from the fire marshal's office, that the person power in acceptance testing alone, you're talking 4 people plus the alarm division. You're talking a lot of person power. I think we've exhausted as much as we can. Therefore, Madam Chair, I'd like to make a motion to give this leave to withdraw.
Okay. Is there a second on that?
Yeah, I'll second that.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second, and I just, while that motion is on the table, I would like to also add to the discussion that I did have communication by email with Chief Pond, who could not attend tonight, but he was not in favor of changing these fees at this time. So I do want to add that into the record because he did communicate that. And then he did ask Captain Cavanaugh if he could be available on short notice.
To have the head of
And I
the
mean, you're the
fire-
one doing it, so.
He's the one that signs off on everything, so.
Yeah, so
I mean,
we
I don't think you're gonna get a more higher ranking officer.
The firsthand information. Yes,
So,
Counselor Murphy.
Captain, first of all, thank you for being here, but let me just ask one more question, and maybe this is totally off the wall, but, so, if I have 6 units, and then a next building has 12 units, is it double the amount of time to do 12 units as it is to do 6 units?
It is more, it's not double, it's more manpower to do the acceptance testing. It's more, I think that the difference, you know, in the square footage and in that fee between a 6 and a 12 is gonna be, it's not gonna be drastic.
Yeah. So you would think it's 80% of the time, 90% of the time, similar manpower in terms of,
Yeah, but the fee that's gonna be between the 6 unit and the 12 unit isn't gonna be such a drastic difference. It's not like it's not gonna be justified by the extra manpower that'll be required for that. I think that the fee is fair in that situation particular.
okay. I mean, yeah, I was just trying to see if there was a way, obviously, if someone was trying to do it, and the more landlords that are trying to do it, if there was a way that, you know, this cost is sequentially going down because you've got a bigger building, and we're obviously doing all of that in that one building at this time, but just trying to find a way to bring the cost down and encourage landlords to keep doing what they should do.
Counselor Valentin?
Thank you. I guess I would like to go on record saying that I would hope that this would not be given leave to withdraw, because when the order was filed and the communication took place with Chief Pond, there was no conversation about what we discussed here regarding the commentary from Councilor Murphy and myself about the whole incentive reward idea. And so I feel that it would be unfortunate for that conversation to not be able to take place. I think it's pretty often that we discuss orders here that are referred to ordinance regarding changing ordinances or reviewing fees, or and they are discussed in this body. I can think about things with DPW. I can think about fees with the building department, Board of Health. All of those have been discussed in these chambers, and I do not remember folks being redirected to the groups that are part of those departments. I do not remember somebody who wanted to have us review a fee for example, something that the Board of Health oversees, us saying, we're going to give this leave to withdraw, go talk to the Board of Health folks. I don't remember that happening with DPW. In the years I've been here, people who have come forward saying, can you please take a look at these fees or these ordinances regarding structures for fees and such, and us saying, we're going to give it leave to withdraw, send those folks to DPW to talk to the groups there. So I would hope that leave to withdraw is not what the committee goes with tonight, especially when there's only 3 of 5 members here tonight. Because again, when the conversation started to take place with Chief Pond around this, there was no indication of the proposal that both Councilor Murphy and I are verbalizing tonight regarding a rewarding or incentive type system. So I just want to go on the record saying that if you all are going to vote on leave to withdraw, then maybe every time a constituent comes forward and says, can you take a look at these fees, then maybe we need to redirect everybody outside of these chambers, which I would not agree with. So I just want to go on the record for that. Thank you.
Thank you. So my perspective on this is that we have entertained both Councilor Murphy's and Councilor Valentin's ideas in thinking about the concept of reward for voluntarily coming in compliance with the law rather than having to be told by an inspection to come in compliance with the law. And this is partly the reason why we had this meeting tonight. This is also why the committee members voted to suspend the rules so that we could hear from the building owners. For me, to give this leave to withdraw is on the question of change the order, which specifically is looking to change the 5 cent per square foot from measurements that have been explained to us by Captain Kavanagh to the portion of the premises where the work is being carried out, which is a building department language rather than fire department language, which has been explained to us tonight to my satisfaction. And I think if there wishes to be a different approach of some sort of, I don't know what it would be, I think that would be a different order. I think we have considered the order as it's written, and right now we have a motion before us. Certainly the full council will get to hear and debate and decide what they wish to do in this regard, but for my part, we have a motion before us. It's been seconded, and I'd like to take a vote on it and recommend to the city council. So all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
No.
Okay, so we have 2 in favor, 1 opposed to send it to the city council to give it leave to withdraw, which really only means that we are not looking to amend the fee at this time. It's not any criticism of the order. It's just that simply it's our mechanism for not recommending a change to the fee right now. Okay?
Motion to take up agenda items 2 and 3, suspend the rules to agenda items 2 and 3 as a package.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So item 2 is a petition of Jesus Feliciano of 261. Thanks for coming
Thank you,
down,
Captain.
Captain.
Thanks, Captain.
261 Elm Street for a street vendor license. Item 3 is a petition by Arnaldo Ravento Lopez of 222 Pine Street for a street vendor license to be located at 436 High Street. So not seeing either one here, could we just table this?
Motion to table.
And can I just add, I know it's not debatable, but.
We don't have a
both-
second yet, you're in order.
Both, if I'm not mistaken, both of these were on our agenda last time.
They were.
And have anybody communicated with us?
Well, Ryan reaches out to the people, and I asked him to put these on again because I'm thinking if they wanted to have street vendor license, this is the time of year. So I thought, since we had done this meeting a little unusually, we would give them an
Yeah.
earlier opportunity if they could make it to be
Because
considered.
number 3 is on our agenda tomorrow
Right there,
for a truck permit at 222 Pine Street.
all of these orders are on the agenda for tomorrow so that if we were recommending an action on them, they could be acted on.
Okay.
Because of the meeting being so close to the council meeting. It doesn't mean we have to do
Okay,
anything.
okay.
Counselor Bartley?
It sounds like what Councilor Murphy said, it's a separate order on for tomorrow. Do I have that right, Councilor Murphy?
A different order?
Yeah.
Oh,
I'm
Oh.
almost assuming it's
So-
asking for a truck permit, a truck vendor license permit to operate at 222 Pine Street.
Okay, so that
That's
would,
why I read it.
that would probably go to DGR, but let's just refer that to ordinance as well, just to keep it all in one committee.
if they are 2 different things, or if it's just not sort of a
Yeah,
Rewrite
when I
this.
saw it, and then I saw this, I thought,
Council Murphy, may I make sure? So Council Murphy, if I may, just tomorrow night when that comes up, if you would just motion to have that go to ordinance,
okay,
then we can take them out. And I would just say table this to June
11th.
okay,
11th. Yeah, thank you.
second.
So if it
I'm not
is the same, it will say awaiting disposition. If it's different,
Yep.
yeah.
I mean, this, no, I'm almost positive it's a new petition filed
Okay.
by that same person at 222 Pine Street, but
Okay.
for a permit at 22 Pine Street and not
Okay.
at 436 High Street.
All right.
I'll renew my motion to table.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Uh,
So
motion-
these are tabled to June 11th.
Great. Motion to take up item number 5.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Item 5 is a handicap application for Mr. William Vasquez for 16 Cabot Street. Hang on. And it was me. You were
I
innocent.
usually do it.
Oh, so there was a site inspection done by Don Welch for 2519. Application is recommended to be approved.
Make a motion.
So go ahead.
Make a motion that we approve the handicap permit for Mr. William Vasquez.
And put it into legal form.
Put in legal form and
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We have been advised by Crystal that she probably will not have time to do legal form for the meeting.
Yeah, it's got to be measured and all the rest of that jazz too.
Yeah, so,
You can put it on the first meeting in June.
Yeah.
Which, yeah, I think that'll be the first city council meeting in June, June 4th. And motion to adjourn.
second.
all in favor?
Aye.
And
Thank you all.
I'll let him know. And I did try to get Jim.